Welcome to All In, a straight-shooting, science-based podcast about periods, fertility, and nurturing health outside of unrealistic beauty expectations. We will mostly, but not exclusively, focus on hypothalamic amenorrhea, HA, a component of relative energy deficiency in sport, formerly known as the female athlete triad.
I'm Dr. Nicola Sykes, scientist and author of the book No Period, Now What? I specialize in helping people understand how their eating, exercise, and lifestyle habits are keeping them from hormonal health and their best life. My work focuses on regaining periods, improving fertility, and breaking free of the rules underlying diet culture.
My name is Florence Gillet. I'm a certified eating psychology coach, a former HA patient, and an advocate of health at every size and body neutrality. I help people let go of their obsession with size and appearance to regain self-confidence, finally appreciate their bodies, and live an overall fuller, more joyful life.
Every 2 weeks, the All In podcast brings you real recovery stories, expert insights, and new scientific research on HA, hormonal health, and fertility, with an unmissable touch of body respect and women's empowerment.
Just a reminder that this podcast represents the opinions of the hosts and their guests. This content should not be taken as medical advice. It's for informational purposes only. And because each person is unique, please consult your primary care practitioner for any medical questions. Music by the Andy Shulman Band, available on Spotify. Hello, Nicola. How are you?
Hello, Florence. It's so nice to be back recording with you again. It's been quite a while, and I think it's fantastic. We have over 145,000 downloads of our podcast, which is amazing. I mean, and I've gotten some really good feedback from people in my support group. You know, they're often saying, when are you going to start recording again? And, oh, I listened to this episode and it was so helpful. And, you know, that's really meaningful and special. And I think that we do have a little bit of a different take from a lot of other podcasts out there, you know, in the mix of the different people that we talk to. And
True.
So I think that's kind of cool and exciting.
I love that. I mean, we have a great time recording it, and you listeners love it too, which is super, super heartwarming. And, you know, when we decided to take a break in May 2022 from the podcast, I think it was necessary. We really needed that time. And I'm going to come back to, you know, why we decided to do that at the time. But it has been so incredible to just see that every week we would get a few hundred downloads we haven't promoted it. We haven't talked about it. I mean, I think we've been quite conservative when it came to, you know, we launched it a while ago. We're not just going to bring out the same information over and over again, which is maybe silly of us. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly the best at marketing, but gosh, thank you so much. I think, yes, we are back for this season and I'm super excited, but also I really felt the love. And it's so nice that it resonated with you, whatever we recorded, that it's helping you in your recovery, that it's one more tool. You know, there's the book, there's Nicola's website, there's the support groups, there's the coaching sessions. But I think the podcast is something different. It's something for everyone. And I'm hoping also, you know, maybe you share it with your families, with your own support groups where you are. So I cannot thank you enough. I think we're both very, very touched. And we never thought we would reach, you know, over 100,000, let alone 145,000. So that is fantastic.
In a way, it's like the book itself. When I originally wrote it, my goal was to sell 1,000 copies, and now it's well over 10,000 and climbing every day. And you know, it's gone a little bit beyond where I ever really thought it would. You know, and I think that's really fantastic. And you know, it's a testament to all the people out there who are listening and sharing this knowledge with their doctors and their dietitians, and dietitians sharing it with their clients. And, you know, I think it's really become a lovely network of people who all have the same goal in mind of, you know, not only period recovery, but also the freedom that comes with the food freedom and the mental freedom, and not caring so much about our bodies, and not caring so much about the societal pressures. And
True.
I just think that's a really beautiful place for us to be and for our listeners to be. And I love that people are sharing that with their friends and family. And
Absolutely.
it really is heartwarming to see this spreading.
Absolutely. And so that's why we're back.
Yes.
I had more of an eye on the numbers, and I kept saying to Nicola, it keeps going up. We're not even promoting it. This is a great tool, actually, and we're not using it enough. So, we talked about it a bit, and we did have to put a few things out of the way to say, like, we're ready to record again. We are going to try and have this ready as video as well, which is like, hello. It may not look exactly the most professional every time, but we will try our best. I think having wonderful faces in front of you will hopefully be even more interesting. But if you prefer the audio, we would totally understand.
Whatever
Stopped.
medium is best for you
Yes.
to watch or listen or
The
share, we're
Exactly.
happy.
The
Yes.
goal is to have it available in different platforms and different ways for you to enjoy. And if you
Yes.
prefer to just listen to our voices, we would completely understand it. The reason we stopped in May 2022 was quite simple. We had another project at heart, and it was to translate the book in French, actually. So it occupied both of us for quite
Yes.
some time. And we felt like at the time we really needed a break from recording, editing, publishing the podcast, which was quite time and labor intensive, even though it's obviously a labor of love. And so we did do what we said we would do, but a lot of
Yay!
things happened. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of things happened, I think, for both of us in those 18 months. And we felt like the first episode of season 3
Yeah.
could be a bit of a recap as to what have you done, Nicola? What have you done? It sounds like
Yes.
a punishment, but no. What do you want to share with us that actually happened since May 2022? And we're now recording in December 2023.
Yes, it's kind of unbelievable that it has been quite so long. And I really have to thank you, Florence, for sort of saying we should start this up again, because oh gosh, so many things have happened for me in this past year and a half. And there's been a lot of grief in my personal life. And I feel like I'm sort of slowly pulling through it. The fog is
Mhm.
lifting, but it's a little bit hard to see a path forward at the moment. And so having you say, let's start the podcast again, I was like, yes, let's do that. It's something nice to look forward to. And sort of gets us back into the promoting our work a little bit, and all of that stuff. So I think I'd like to start by talking about the French translation. I mean, so it wasn't
Yes.
just taking the original version and translating it into French. It was also doing quite a bit of reworking. So we
True.
decided to split it into 2 volumes. So the first volume is really much more about just the period recovery part and not so much about the pregnancy and getting pregnant and trying to conceive and all of that. And then the second volume will be sort of that side of getting pregnant and all of that works. I think in the current book, it's the third part. But when I first wrote the book, it was very much from the focus of people wanting to get pregnant, because when we were both on the board, that's really almost everybody who was on there was trying to get pregnant.
Yes.
And that was when you discovered, oh, I don't have a period, and now it's kind of important, so I need to do something about it. But I think it's really fantastic that in the years since that, the knowledge about periods seems to have changed a little bit in the general sphere, and many more people are coming to us wanting to get their period back for all the health reasons and not
Yeah.
just for sort of immediate pregnancy purposes. So we reworked that whole first section to sort of take away some of the focus on pregnancy and focus more on period recovery. We also worked to make it a little bit more gender inclusive. We were very, when I first wrote the book, I started it 10 years ago in 2012. And, obviously for people for whom gender identity was sort of non-traditional, that's always been their life. But I think it's become much more prominent in the public sphere in the
Yeah.
intervening years. And so we made an effort to try not to focus quite so much on women, but sort of open the book to anybody who might be experiencing missing period. So those both took quite a bit of work on my part. I also wrote a whole new chapter on contraception after HA,
Yes,
because I think that
you
there
wrote
are
it. I didn't write much. You can take full
well,
credit for that. I did not write any part of this.
so I said we because I also did reconnect with Lisa and Stephanie and ask them
Right.
to help with, with editing
Okay,
and
that
sort of,
makes sense.
yeah, yes, making it, again, I'm a scientist. I write like a scientist. I write for scientists. So,
Yes, yes.
having input from people who are of different backgrounds, always very helpful. I mean, I'll never forget there were a few times when I was writing the first version and Steph would be like, Nick, I don't understand what you're saying here.
What exactly are you
And I would go
trying to
back and
say?
look at it and like, yeah, okay, I see how that could use a little bit of editing, just for general clarity. I mean, not everybody knows the
Yes.
same scientific terms that I know. So anyway, I wrote the chapter on contraception sort of with an eye to really focusing on ovulation and the importance of that. And there are some contraceptive methods that allow you to continue ovulating, which I think is hugely important. There are some methods that are better than others if you're not ovulating. And
Mm-hmm.
there are also differences in what they might do for your bone density. So this new chapter really brings all of that together. So I am planning on publishing that as a standalone little chapter for people that have the book already and are
Yes.
interested in that. So that's one of the things that's on my to-do list. So yeah, so that was a lot of the work that I was doing. And then also, so we hired somebody to actually do the translation, so that's Eva Barlow Headley. And so she and Florence worked together on the translation and editing. And I also would read through because I can read French, even though I can't speak it perfectly, and
You read
listening
it
is
very
challenging.
well.
But
You read it
yeah,
very well.
my read French is pretty good.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, so we had a lot. And of course, the editing takes way longer than you ever think it will. You always are like, oh yeah. I mean, I think we edited the original version for a year, and that was completely mind blowing to me. I mean, I thought, oh, it'll be a month or two. Yeah, no, it's actually a lot of work to do the editing and
It
then the
takes a long time.
copy editing, and you put it into the book format, and you're missing a period here. You have the wrong kind of quotation marks. You've got extra spaces. Oh, this part didn't actually get translated. you know,
Yes.
there are just so many things that went on through that process. So, is there anything that you would like to say about those months that we were working on that project?
Fascinating for me to participate in this because I've never really done that before. The amount of work that goes into that book is tremendous, and I cannot thank you enough, Nicola, for having done that, and your co-authors for the English version first and now French. Yeah, I was surprised at how much time and effort this required. But I think we did quite a good team. I think Eva, our
Yes.
translator, was fantastic. She helped us also understand, some of the differences for the pharmaceutical language. Some of the names of medications, for example, are different in Europe. We mostly based the French version on French people, but it will be used obviously in Belgium, in Switzerland, in Quebec. But we decided to focus more specifically on what the French would say, which I have to say for me as an expat for so long now, I had to think for quite a bit. Also, like, how do we say this in proper French? Like, not in this kind of mix of languages that I use. But it was great working with you as usual. And I think having this book is so helpful to the French community because, not everybody is going to go in and find you in and say, yes, I'm going to sign up for coaching. I think the book is a great first step to understand, is this really what's happening to me? What do I
Yeah.
have? How come I have it? Why are the doctors saying differently? All sorts of questions that you might have. And I'm so glad that we have that available for French speaking people all over. There's still a lot of work to market it and making sure it's seen by many people speaking French. But it's great to have that as a tool to refer back to it, for women to work their way through as they recover and get back into, okay, maybe what contraceptive I would be preferring to use. So I loved it. It was obviously way longer than I thought as well. And I did felt quite tearful when I had the first copy in my hands. It felt quite
Yes.
special to have that book in
Yes.
French. I think for me, it was definitely a bit of a dream that became true, because when I was sick, I would have loved to have that. So it's maybe a bit selfish that I took this on with you. Not a lot of market research went into this. I have to be very honest. I was like, we need it. We need to do
Yeah.
it. And we're just going to get it done. So it's great. And so the book came out in March this year, 2023.
Wait, I have to go get a copy.
Yes, you have
be
to
right
show
back.
us. I actually have one next to me if you want.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to get, where's my other one?
It's a live looking for the book. So
Here we go. Okay. All right. So
yay.
here's my copy. It still has, not for resale, because I got the proof version so that we could, flip through it and make sure that all of the figures were in the right places and,
Yes.
the pages looked good and all of that. So this is my copy.
We called it I Don't Have My Period Anymore, because it's a title that sounded better in French than the original No Period Now What. But I have to say, we stayed pretty much very literal with the English book. I mean, it's not, except for that third part that is not yet translated, everything is very much close to the English original book, except that we try to present the examples in a more understandable way. I mean, there are a lot of American references in the English book, which is totally natural and normal. So we try to kind of make them a bit more French and European. And I think it does speak to everybody now in the French speaking world. I haven't heard anybody saying, what are you talking about? What is this referring to?
Yeah.
So I'm very glad for that. And we've had a few ladies posting great reviews on Amazon. And so it's been quite a journey, and it's definitely my biggest achievement of those 18 months, for sure. Potentially in general as a coach, like something that I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, shameless plug, if you are listening to us and you speak French and you have, you want to share the book, or you know of a podcast that perhaps Florence could be on in French, please reach out to us, because, certainly for the English version, I did find that being on other people's podcasts was probably my best marketing tool. And shameless plug, if you want me on your podcast, I'll do that too.
Yeah, we're basically available for any podcast in
yes.
French and English. Yeah, no, definitely. And if you want to order, we have a very simple link as usual. It's noperiod.info/livre for book in French. And obviously, the French book also has a French support group attached to it. So that is, I guess, that's the other change that we didn't really think about, but that we need to talk about is, maybe some of you remember the free Facebook group we used to run for years. Gosh, how many years did you run that group for?
A long time.
Too long, probably.
Probably too long.
So it was fantastic to have a free group, obviously, but it's a huge amount of work. Also because a lot of people used to come with no idea whatsoever what was HA, where, they kind of used to arrive there and then say, explain everything to me. And there was the sense of, we have to start this explanation over and over again. We need to find a better way. So I think it's about the time that we stopped the podcast, right? We kind of transitioned from the free Facebook group to paid for support groups, which we're not asking a lot for those paid support groups, right? How much do we ask for those, Nicola?
So for the English version, the recommended amount is $5.99 a month. I do have a sliding scale, so if people can't afford that, they can pay less. If people can afford a little more, then it's lovely if they can contribute a little bit more. So there's all those options, and that's at noperiod.info/support. And then the French group
The French group is at noperiod.info/communauté because we call it our virtual community. Support group doesn't quite work as well in French. So we gave it the virtual community name, and it's 9.99 euro, but the 28 first days are free. And we do request for the French support group that you have the book first. I have gotten also a few of my coaching clients in there because after 6 sessions of coaching, they know exactly what they need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we do need a minimal level of understanding of what is HA, what is the all-in method, what do we have to do to recover, because otherwise we kept reinventing the wheel on that free Facebook group. It's like, what
Yeah.
do? I don't have a period. Okay, let me explain to you.
Go get the
And
book.
yeah. So it was a little bit too complicated. And, I think in a lot of ways, whenever you invest a little bit in yourself of time and money, you actually dedicate more time to. So I think the idea of like, should we keep it free? Should we not make it paid? One, we need that money. Everybody's got to
Yeah.
eat and raise their
Yeah.
kids, and school is not free
Yeah.
in many places in this world. But the other thing is, I do think that putting a little bit of money towards your recovery is actually a way for you also to say, I'm really dedicated to do the changes that I need to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And, I think many people have invested a lot in things that haven't worked for them, like
Oh gosh,
supplements
yes.
and
Teas.
teas, coaches who don't necessarily understand HA or know about it.
More diets.
Yes, yes. Or people who are told they have PCOS and so they go to the gym more, and
In the
lots of doctors' visits.
doctor's visits, a lot
Yeah.
of functional doctors in France, a lot of, natural type medicine, plant-based medicine, whatever you call it. And I'm not saying those don't have benefits, but with HA, a lot of people do not know what they're saying when it comes to
Yeah.
helping with HA. And they're also trapped in their own biases, right? So if they believe that you have to be a certain weight or that you shouldn't eat this or that, then they will pass that on to their
Yeah.
clients.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
It's
there are
quite natural.
certainly practitioners that, clients have shared with me that their practitioners have told them, oh, cut out dairy, cut out gluten,
Yes.
cut things out. And like, that's not going to be helpful with HA recovery,
Yes.
so.
Plus, how much money did we invest at the time in gyms and special miracle ingredients and super organic, farm fresh, raised free in the nature
Those
type eggs and all sorts of stuff? Which again, I'm not saying it's wrong to do that, but it's one of those things I think you have to find the right balance, definitely.
Yes. So, one of the other things that happened for me in that time was that my divorce was finalized, and
Yes.
I did end up deciding to change my name back to my maiden name. So, just in the last couple of months, I republished the English version of the book with my new name on the front cover, and we also decided to add this little banner to the front where it says Origin of the All-In Method, because there were a lot of people that were talking about it and not sort of maybe not giving credit as to where they heard about it from, or just misinformed. And, so we decided that we would make it a little bit more obvious, because the book isn't called All In or anything like that, or maybe it should be.
I think for me as well, in the French speaking environment, I hear a lot of misinformation around Olin, and I don't know if it comes from the English speaking world or not, but I constantly have to say, like, I'm not here to stuff your face with food. I'm just going to get you to a better place, and you can do it at your own rhythm and pace. There's obviously things you want to do if you want to get your period back as quickly as possible, but there was this sense that Olin was like, binging on all sorts of quote unquote foods that would be seen as unhealthy. And I don't know where people pick that up. So I think it's important that we bring it back to who the original author is, which is, you and Lisa and Stephanie. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Gosh, I should know that. But but also like to remind people that we're not actually making them sicker by doing this, or I think there's a lot of fear mongering also in this world, and people will say all
Yes,
sorts of things, which
so
is,
much.
they might say that about intuitive eating as well. We've seen that, so I'm not surprised, but it's good that
Yeah.
we bring it back, and for people to read, oh, this is what it means. It doesn't actually mean some
Yeah.
crazy eating 24/7 type method.
And that reminds me, we do have a previous podcast episode on what is all in. So you
Gosh, that
can
was
go
a
back and listen to
beautiful
that.
plug, Nicola. I
Thank
love
you. Thank
it.
you.
Amazing. That's great. So we have now Nicola Sykes. And if you noticed, we also re-recorded our intro. So to fit that beautiful new name,
Yeah.
old, new, it's all good.
Yes. Yes.
And did you want to add something else about the past 18 months?
So another thing that happened is that I changed my website. It sort of
Yes.
happened in a rush and maybe a little bit by accident.
Nobody
So I
will
had been
notice.
working on it, and then yeah, I don't even remember why it was, but I had to transition over to the new one in a flash and a hurry. And so some things didn't quite make it in translation. So the website, I think, is a much easier to navigate now.
Yes.
There are buttons for buy the book and work with me and the support group, which is great. But there are some blog posts that I still have not moved over yet. All the most important ones that I refer people to quite regularly are almost all there. I need to update the one on energy balance, but acetylcarnitine is there. Why you need to wait for 3 periods before making changes is there. The things about Prevera and progesterone. But is still on my to-do list to sort of update those blog posts. And we also did some translations into French, and so we have a few of
Yep.
our top posts in French as well. So that's that was also something that took up some time and probably needs to take a little bit more of my time, but so many things to do.
I
So
know, I know. And this is what happens when you're the sole person on board. I always say,
yeah.
like, I'm the head of the train and all of the cars. So it's a lot. Sometimes I get a bit lost as well into what is my priority. But yeah,
Yes.
you also make available a few free chapters, right? In English and in French. So that's super helpful. I find that if people are not so sure about buying the book, not so sure they might have HA, the fact that those chapters about diagnosis and the one about HA versus PCOS, it totally makes sense for people to just download for free. And then if they still think, yes, this is me, then they can go on to buy the book. So I wouldn't look at it as a, glass half empty. I would look
Oh,
at it as
yeah.
definitely half
Yes.
full. But yeah, I think you were saying that, you felt like some people had maybe lost track of where your website was. So do you want to remind us?
Well, so it's just no period now what.com. And yeah, I think
Super
part of it is
simple.
that, yeah, super simple. I think that in the transition, some of the search engine optimization got lost. And so
Yes.
blog posts that used to come up at the top of searches are no longer coming up. So, if you have a website that had links to my old site, all the specific blog post names have changed, which I think it's a little bit problematic. So a lot of links might be broken. So if you have a
Mm,
website that was referring to mine, if you could take a couple of minutes and go back and edit those links, I would super appreciate it, because that would help with helping more people find the website and the book and, all of that stuff. So that would be much appreciated.
awesome.
So the paperback in the English has been updated. So not only the cover, but I also went through and made a lot of the changes that Florence and I had made to the version that we were going to translate into French. I've now carried those through into the English version. So that's
Oh,
things like updated the information about soy isoflavones and some other supplements, and,
yes.
added some of that information in, took away some of the gender identity stuff. That's actually really cool in French. You may or may not know that many words are, either masculine or
Gendered.
feminine.
Yeah.
Gendered, yes. And the French language, they've come up with this really cool way of doing either or. So you put a little dot in the word between the masculine and feminine version or vice versa. And I think that's fantastic. So that
So
was really,
that's happening in progressive
yeah.
circles.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
don't know if you're aware, but there are rife conversations between
Mm,
the guardians of the old-fashioned French who completely oppose this, and the people that say, well, we should see women in the language, because in French, a lot of stuff is gendered, but also we say the masculine actually wins
mm-hmm.
over. And
Mm-hmm.
this was a choice that was made centuries ago by men who actually had in mind to make the language a bit more male focused and to give a little bit less visibility to female. So it was a choice. It doesn't have to be this way. It could be
Mm-hmm.
inclusive. And the choice that we made to write it in the inclusive manner is to bring back the idea that masculine is not taking over everything. There are women too, but it is actually not a consensus. Far from. In France, there are a lot of debates over this. So we made a progressive
Yeah.
choice, but it is not, sadly, it's not okay yet. And even on my account, actually, I shared about this and I had a few people saying, I don't agree with you. This is not right. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one
Mm-hmm.
of those things. People are attached to their language. My view is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
language defines what we see in the reality. If we don't have words for stuff, then those things don't quite exist. It's difficult to talk about something that we don't have a word for. And we've seen that a lot with sexual violence, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
That if there
Yeah.
were no words, I'm thinking of, when kids are being abused and they don't have words for that, then sometimes they're not recognized as victims, although it did happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my view. And therefore we felt like we wanted to write it in inclusive writing. And that's very cool. I agree
Yes.
with you. The idea that we have both genders in the same words is pretty cool. But yeah, you've been quite busy updating all of these different tools and materials. So
Yeah.
that's really great.
And so the things I'm working on now are sort of finishing updating the English. I'm working on the ebook, and I did the print first, and then they just you have to make sure all the links work for the ebook, and the
That's so
pagination is
painful.
slightly different, and so it's just so that's coming really soon, and so I
Yay.
think I will for people who have purchased the book recently, I'll offer it to them for no charge. I mean, I'll offer it to everybody for no charge, but I think if people have the older version, if they might be willing to contribute a little bit towards this new one, that would also
Mhm.
be lovely. So that'll be an option available on the website.
And as you said,
And
you'll do the contraceptive part as well as a
yes,
separate
yep,
add-on that people
yes.
can buy. I think
Yeah,
it's
because that's
super, super helpful.
not in the new book, in the new English version yet either, because the book is already so long, and
Yeah.
it's hard to kind of add a whole other chapter in. So that'll
Yeah.
that'll come down the line. So right now I'm also working on German translation. So we're in the
Yay.
copy editing stage there. So that's a group of people led by a few, Svea, Catherine, and Nora from the support group. So it was a group translation effort and editing. And so that's been really fun to do. So that's getting close. And then I have a Spanish translation. So I need to find an editor and sort of get cracking on that. And then next after that, I think we'll be going back and doing some more research for the second
Yeah.
volume, because, that was written back in, 2014, 15, 16. And there has been a
Gosh.
lot of research that's come out since then. And so I do want to, update the chapters on oral meds and injectables and
Yes.
IVF to be sort of like state of the art and really include some of the more recent stuff that we've learned about.
It will be 10 years
That's,
next year that
yeah.
you
Oh
started
my
working on
gosh.
this. This is
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
but what a great journey, and yeah, definitely that second volume, I think it would be quite helpful for the French community as well. So the
Yes.
goal
Yep.
is kind of
So,
promoting a lot of this existing volume so that I have more people to talk to when it's time to
yeah.
sell the other one. Cool. That's great. I think you've been quite active actually. We were, we had this sense of like, what did we do? Did we actually do
Yeah.
anything? But you've been really busy.
Yeah,
So
doing lots of things. I think I had been feeling quite burned out on social media, so my
yeah.
presence there has been quite minimal over the last year, I would say.
Mm-mm.
I keep thinking, "Oh, I should do this," and it just hasn't happened. And I think part of that is sort of stemming from what's been happening in my personal life, and I think
Yeah.
I've just been feeling a little bit more shuttered and closed in, and just kind of circling with the few people that are really meaningful to me.
Totally.
So,
And
yeah.
I completely understand that. And I think, it's one of those things we go through phases, right? And sometimes it's too much and we
Yeah.
can't keep up. And it was lovely to see that because you posted recently something and lots of people replied and were like,
Yes.
yay, you're back. We
Yes.
missed you. So
Yeah.
I don't think these
Yes.
people, unfollow or are disappointed. It's just life happens.
Yeah.
And to me, I see you more as a kind of opinion leader on these topics. And so I don't actually expect you to post all the time, like, oh, did you know about this or did you know about that? It's
Hmm.
kind of you're really at the root of developing the research, the theories, understanding what is out there, how to explain it to the commoner like me, how to make it more accessible. And that makes so much more impact actually than just
Hmm.
posting random stuff on Instagram. So I think we need to think also of what are the platforms that function for us right now,
Yeah.
And social media can be an endless rabbit hole. You can spend your
Yes.
whole day there
Yes.
and not actually getting what you need or what you wanted to do. So I think it's good that you protected yourself in that time and that you're able to kind of feel slowly like you're coming back into, okay, this is what I'm doing. And maybe it's reaching out to your community in different ways for sure. I totally see that as well.
Yeah.
So that
So
was more of
that's been a
the
lot about me.
challenge.
So how about you tell us a little bit about what you've been working on? And
I feel like I have not done as much. Look, it's been interesting because, well, working on the book, setting up, the way that we would communicate about the book, sell the book, organize the support group.
yeah,
What's
a lot.
different? Yeah, what's different about my support group in French, because we're still recruiting people into the support group. It's not as busy yet, is that I've decided to host little workshops. So once a month, we do a workshop on a specific topic that is obviously of interest of people in recovery. A lot of them will be around emotional health, body image issues, all the things that are really my expertise and
Hmm.
that complement the work that you do with the book and with all the scientific outcomes that we know thanks to you. And then we also do live Q&As where people can come and ask their questions. And I've started doing period parties as well. So we're going to have our first period party tomorrow. And the goal is really to also celebrate what we've done, because I find that for a lot of us, we work so hard. We do so much to get there and to restore our fertility, which is fantastic. This is the best gift for sure. But I think we don't give ourselves the credit in many
Yeah.
ways. And one of the big things that changed for me work-wise is that I've decided this year to set more boundaries with what I really wanted to do and how I wanted to focus on my own business, both in English and in French. It's always been a bilingual business, but now that I have the book and the community online, it's obviously a little bit busier on the French speaking side, but I
Yeah.
still have my clients on the English side too. And I still work on body image and I still go in schools and I still do all of these things. I felt the need this year to refocus. So that's been an ongoing work to think about, where am I going to go in 2024? Where
Hmm.
is it that I really need to offer something to people so that they benefit from the coaching and the support? What it is that I maybe don't offer yet that I should offer. So that's still kind of a work in progress. I would love to go back to do a proper newsletter, messages for people that join the database, and they can get like a few free content and stuff that can help
Hmm.
them work their
Hmm.
way through recovery. And I think my focus is really to give more visibility to the work that we do together and to be present on other podcasts and really push a bit more the marketing side of things. I think it's not my area, as I said before, and therefore I tend to procrastinate a little bit on it.
Yes,
So
so much procrastination.
yeah. So, and because again, you're the head of the train and then all of the other
Yes.
cars, it's easy to just say like, oh, let it slide a little bit. It has been a reasonably good period for me. Like nothing major happened. Thank God. I wasn't hit by some terrible drama or anything like that. But my kids are changing fast. They both ended primary school, elementary school, and, entered middle school or secondary school. And gosh, it has been quite the roller coaster ride. I was not ready for that. They are only, now they're almost 12 and 13. And this year, especially for my daughter, she was only 11. I was not ready for her to change so fast, but she is already a teen at 11 years old. So I had to hold on tight. I think it definitely brought up a lot of, I guess, emotional difficulties that I still had to tackle for sure. Parenting has this wonderful way of showing you exactly what you need to work on. And my husband also decided to take a job in another city. So we had
That's
a lot
a
of,
lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
we had to adapt. I realize now, at the end of this year, when I think about all of this, I'm thinking, well, yes, it's a lot to adapt to. And I have been feeling out of sorts sometimes and feeling a little bit lost about, where's my stance, what is important to me, how do I react to things. I felt very, very hypersensitive to my kids in a way. It felt a bit like they were rejecting me. It's just, they're just growing up. It's
Yeah.
not that they do that on purpose, but it does feel a little bit like that when it happens the first few times. I can see already that I'm getting more used to the, teenage style of handling, not conflict, but, debate and arguing in the house, because they're not little children anymore. And I'm not the center of their world anymore. And I think there is maybe a bit of grief in this too, in the sense
Yeah.
of, well, this
Yeah.
part is behind now. And we still have a lot of great things to live together. And they still very much need me, but in a totally different way. So
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever ready for that. We know that it's going to happen, but it's not that simple. So I have started also, but this is something maybe I can talk about separately and later in the season. I have started a new type of therapy, which was recommended to me, called internal family systems. And I find it quite helpful. So I think the longer I spend working on that and the more I get accustomed to it, it's maybe something we could do an episode on, what kind of therapy we tried and what helped, what didn't help, what is out there for people that have a tendency to disordered eating or perfectionism, terrible inner critics. That's very much what I'm still grappling with, I would say. It's way better than it was before, but it's still not completely gone, if I'm honest. And I think it's a good thing that I set boundaries in a way. That meant I left the charity that I had worked for, volunteered, because I was not, it was pro bono work that I used to do for them for 5 years. So leaving was necessary. I felt like I was at the end of, that cycle and I needed to really refocus on my business. But it's funny, when I left, I found myself with all of that time and I got a little bit lost, I have to be honest. So I feel like it's going to be a good start this year, 2024. By the time we're going to release this, it's going to be in 2024.
Yes.
It's going to be a good start to kind of say like, okay, what do I do now? And it's great to say I'm going to refocus on my business, but what does it actually mean? And what do I need to do to make this as interesting, exciting as possible? So that's what happened for me in the past 18 months. I'm still there, sometimes a bit wobbly, but I think aren't we all?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And I'm really looking forward to doing more episodes with you. I think I always get a lot of joy recording those and preparing those and editing those. So
Yeah.
it's a lot
Yes,
of work, but it's
absolutely.
definitely worth it. And hopefully you'll like the season 3 as much as you loved the 2 first seasons.
Yes.
So if you were
Um,
to pick your biggest win or your biggest challenge, what would those be?
so I think biggest win is definitely the publication of the French version and also the attendant update of the English version of No Period Now What. For sure. I mean, that was both of those were a lot of work, and really
Huge win.
getting them out, and holding this new book in my
Holding them.
hand with my
I know.
updated, with my new name, my old name,
So
that's pretty
cool.
special. And that's a really that was a really big win. Biggest challenge, I mean, it's I haven't really talked about it yet, but my mom passed away in October of 2022. She had Alzheimer's. My stepfather was diagnosed with a brain tumor a few months before she passed, and so he passed in June of this year.
That is so
And
much to
it's
deal with.
been a lot, and a lot of emotional challenges, particularly with him. He was my stepfather, but my he and my mom didn't get married until I was 26 or 27. My father passed when I was 21. So dealing with sort of the end stages of my mom's life and his life. And, in both cases, there was a lot of inability to communicate. And that was
Yeah.
incredibly difficult. And so he was also very private. And so dealing with some of the things that he left behind in terms of finances and stuff in the house, the legal stuff hasn't gone through yet. But like, I don't know how to shut off the water and I don't know how to winterize the house, and it's getting cold here. And so it's like, I keep, it's been a lot of work, way more than I imagined, even beyond the sort of personal grief, just dealing
Yeah.
with everything that they've, what they left behind. Speaking of teenagers, my boys are now 11, 15, and 17. And, similar to you, I mean, there's been a lot of challenges there, and,
Yeah.
working through
It's
some
not
stuff.
easy.
And my 11-year-old, I'm still the center of his world. I don't know how long that's going to last, but that's been, my saving grace sometimes. If you're watching the video, you will see my
Yes.
cat just made an appearance. So actually on the same day that my mom passed, we got two kittens. They're black cats. Their names are Mystic and Midnight. They are practically identical. So the only way to tell them apart is that the color of their eyes is different. So
Wow.
Mystic has slightly more olive eyes than Midnight.
So
So
if
I
they
joke that
sleep,
I
you're
have
screwed.
yeah, yes. So we did put a collar on Midnights because Cam really likes being able to tell them apart. But I sometimes joke I have 5 cats. They're called Miss Night and Midnick, and because I mean, if you have cats, like sometimes you want them out of a room. And so there was one night where I was trying to get the cats out of the room, and every time I would put one out, the other one would come back in again.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I have 5 cats. How did this happen?
Yeah. But I guess they've been a good emotional support.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and Cam loves them, and he loves to tell stories about them. And he's also just graduated to middle school,
Yes.
so some big changes there. Yeah,
I'm so sorry for your loss twice as well
thank
in the
you.
same
Yeah,
year. It's tough,
yeah.
but I think you've handled it as usual with a lot of grace and a lot
Thank
of
you.
kindness and compassion. So, well done for that. It was
Thank
definitely
you.
not easy. Yeah. Biggest win for me definitely is the book.
Hmm.
It was quite cool. So I traveled to the US, right, in the summer of
Oh my God,
2023.
I was just thinking
Yes,
about that. Yes.
we met, and we hadn't met since 2015. So we don't meet that often, except virtually. So that was really, really nice. You were there with some of your boys too. So that was really fun to get to meet them. You met my kids. It was quite special. It was quite
It
special
really
to be
was.
there. Biggest challenge, I mean, I can't say that I have one particular challenge. I think for me, it was, yeah, adapting to a lot of changes overall, between the kids growing and my husband being away more. And just, I feel also that there might be a sense that my body is changing I don't know if it's perimenopause yet. I can't say that my cycle is different, but I've had a few challenges with anemia, not having enough iron, struggling with mood, which some professionals were like, it could already be signs of
Hmm.
perimenopause, which is, I think I was hearing it can take a decade,
Yeah.
which I was like, oh. So, gosh, aren't we changing all the time? But yeah, I definitely feel like it kept me off focus for a while, just dealing with all of these different changes and influences. And it's funny, I think in a way we've been through a similar phase where we struggled
Yeah.
to focus as much as we wanted to, at least. It's not like we haven't done anything. And what would you say is in store for this season 3 that you can already reveal to our listeners then?
So we've recorded an episode already on mindful self-compassion that I'm really excited about bringing to our
Yes.
listeners. We have a couple of clients to chat with. One is a man who came to me struggling with some he had gone all in based on finding Stephanie Buttermore's work, and
Yes.
he was struggling with some of the things around that. So, I'm excited to talk with him about his experience of relative energy deficiency in sport and sort of broadening our reach in that way. I think
Yes.
that I've learned more about sort of how it impacts male physiology over the last couple of years. So I think it'll be really interesting to talk with him.
That's super cool. We're going to
Yeah.
have a male guest to talk about the effect of energy deficiency on a male body. Obviously, no
Yes.
period there to be regained, but I do know it has terrible side effects as well on male, and obviously it affects their bone density as well, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be super exciting. And then you have
Yeah.
somebody else as well in
Yeah,
mind.
so this is another client who is on her second round of recovery, and I've actually, there are quite a few people that have joined my support group recently that are sort of in this same boat. And there's a lot of, when you've recovered once, then you sort of feel like, oh, well, I just need to do that again. But our bodies change and things are different. So there's a lot of mental struggle there that I think that she will chat with us about.
Yes.
And yeah,
Makes sense.
so.
I'm still pursuing a few guests, so it will,
Mhm.
come along as we keep releasing episodes. But we're very grateful to have you listening to us. Thank you so much for your support. And, keep commenting on the book, on Amazon, leaving reviews for the podcast, referring back to Nicola's website, my website, when you find something interesting on there. We're, yeah, grateful to be back and
Yeah.
excited for the season 3. And we're going to try and keep bringing you interesting content. So never hesitate as well to send us. I guess I'm a bit more on Instagram. So if it's easier to message there, never hesitate to send some ideas for topics or things you would like us to cover, or guests you would think might be
Yes.
interesting for us to invite on the podcast. We really want to keep this as participative as possible.
Yes, absolutely. And I do have plans to reach out to some more of my science friends. Dr. Trent Stellingworth is somebody who's agreed to be on the podcast. We just need to schedule with him, and a few other
Fingers crossed.
people. Yes, yes. So I did go to the Female Athlete Conference. I went in June of this year, and there's lots of really interesting stuff. And I took all sorts of pictures of slides and then did nothing with it. So I think there's some guests, some really interesting guests that we can contact from that as well. So yeah,
Definitely.
but here's where the procrastination part comes in on my side. It's like, so I have to send an email. What?
I think we all procrastinate. And gosh, it's funny. I looked into that when I was doing that workshop for the French community and support group on perfectionism. And it's one of the side effects of perfectionism is that you kind of fear you're not going to do well enough. And then you kind of get
Yeah.
on a tangent and do something completely different. So we'll get there.
Yes. Yes.
we're back on track, people. And yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, Nicola. And
Thank you.
I can't wait to hear how you are all in this beginning of
I was
2024?
I was just going to say, we can't forget our question. So I think I would say I am all in on being kind to myself.
I love
It's
this.
been an incredibly challenging 18 months, and there have been days where it's been hard to get out of bed. And there have been days where I sit in front of my computer and I have intentions and they don't happen. And I'm just trying to really give myself some grace there and recognize that I've been through a lot. And I mean, not even thinking about my personal situation, and that feels like nothing compared to what's going on in so many parts of the world right now.
But suffering is suffering, where
Yeah.
there's no grading on the suffering, and your pain is just as valid. So of course you need a time to overcome this. And of course you're probably still in the grieving process, It's funny, as we record this, tomorrow actually it will be the anniversary of my dad passing away 20 years ago. And I don't feel grief anymore, but I do feel a bit of sadness. I think grief is a funny little beast, right? It kind of comes and goes, and it will take time, and it's okay. So I agree, being kind to ourselves, that's really beautiful. And actually the episode we did on mindful self-compassion, we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
And how it doesn't mean that you're letting yourself go or whatnot.
Right.
But it's actually, the way you would talk to somebody you love. And I think this is a great way to be all in. I think all of us could probably do with a little bit more self-acceptance and kindness, for sure. For me, so I've decided this year that my word for 2024 will be focus. I have a feeling it might have been my word in 2023, but it didn't quite happen this way. So I think I will definitely try and be kinder to myself. This is something I keep trying to be more of that. But I think I do need to really have a little bit of a plan and stick to that plan, and, recognize that my needs may have changed and it's okay, but I can take a bit of time for myself to take care of myself every morning. For example, I need that right now.
Yeah.
And still, get on with things and feel like I can accomplish new things. I can reach more people with the work that is important to me. So that's what I want to kind of be all in with in the beginning of 2024, is to really allow for myself to just say, I'm going to focus on something that I want to make happen. And maybe it is not related to other people right now. It is really something that I want for myself. And that's okay too. Because I think as women and mothers and wives and partners, we tend to take on so much of other people's problems and complications. And I think sometimes you need to say, well, what do I want in this?
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and focus a little bit more, at least in this first part of the year, on what I want to make happen, and empower myself to do that, and to give myself some space to take care of myself and deliver as well. So let us know what you thought about this episode. Send us some comments if you like the new video format. Hopefully we managed to come out with video, Nicola. Let us know. We love to hear from you, whatever way you want to reach out to us.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicola.
And thank you for listening. Thank you for being there through this. Thank you for sticking with us through our hiatus.
Even though we were, silent.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. One thing that always strikes me is how different each person's all-in journey is. As I often say, there are many paths to HA and many paths out of it. Your journey is unique.
That is so true. If you need more support on your journey, you should definitely start with No Period Now What, which you can get at noperiod.info/book.
And Florence and I both work with people on different aspects of period recovery and so much more. If you'd like more personalized advice and attention, you can go to noperiod.info/appointments to schedule a time to speak with me on fixing issues underlying missing periods, blood work, diagnosis, and lots more.
Or beyondbodyimage.com to work with me on the fear of weight gain and making peace with food, exercise, and your body. I also take care of the new French version of No Period Now What through the Instagram account Je n'ai plus mes règles _livre. We also have joint clients and online support groups, so you can access both our domains of expertise and get the physical and mental help you deserve to put an end to disordered eating once and for all.
If you enjoyed this podcast and found it helpful, please subscribe and drop us a review to help more people find it. Also, join our online recovery community at noperiod.info/support in English and noperiod.info/communique in French, and let us know how All In is going for you.
All In is not just about period recovery, it's about getting your life back. See you in 2 weeks.
You were lost in battle till you got lost again. You were lost in battle. Now find yourself within. Take all that you've learned about love and loss, pleasure and pain, and never get lost again.